I'm Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and I am proud to represent the 2nd Congressional District of Illinois. I want to thank Complete College America for inviting me to speak to you today about a subject close to my heart: predominantly Black institutions and their invaluable role in shaping the future of our nation. PBIs foster Black student success, offer direct support to first-generation and low-income students, and address some of the most pressing challenges facing Black students in our nation. I'm proud to join my colleagues, Congressman Jonathan Jackson and Danny Davis, in founding the Congressional PBI Caucus to ensure government support for these beacons of higher education. As a member of Congress, I believe we have a significant role to play in supporting PBIs. In 2022, PBIs received only 2.3% of the total funding that went to minority-serving institutions, despite enrolling about 5% of MSI students. This disparity is simply unacceptable, and we must correct it. We must also work to increase Pell Grants, which can make PBIs a more affordable option for our students. And there is so much more to be done. Talk to your local leaders and your elected officials. Advocate for more investment in education for minority students. Together, we can make a real difference in the lives of countless students and shape a brighter future for our nation. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Nia Heidel, Vice President for Alliance Engagement and Institutional Transformation at Complete College America.
Good morning, everyone. We want to thank you to Congresswoman Robin Kelly of Illinois for her incredible support of CCA and our mission. She and her staff have done so much for college completion in Illinois and far beyond. I know this morning we will spend a lot of time focused on Nevada, but we're so grateful for policymakers' support from across the nation. I want to thank you all for an incredible day and a half of connections so far. The conversations have been just great. And I am excited for what we have ahead for the last day of Future Ready. I've been so impressed by the conversations and ideas that have already come about, and even more excited about what will come once you all take these ideas home with you and connect on your campuses and in your regions and your states. And I encourage everyone to attend our final call to action this afternoon, where we will announce next year's annual convening and have some giveaways for those of you who make it and join us at 2:45. So y'all show up. I also want to take a moment to thank all the catering, hotel, tech teams that have been supporting us this weekend. Can we give them a... One of my colleagues told me that she was talking to a member of the tech team for the Stan Jones stage, and he said that listening to the presentations yesterday is really pushing him to go back to college at UNLV and earn his bachelor's degree. Isn't that great? There have been conversations happening all over the conference center for the last couple of days when people have asked, well, what do you do? Well, I was thinking about going back. And then people in the line would say, well, I work at an institution, and this is what you need to do. And so even when we're getting coffee, we're helping to move the college completion needle. So we should all be very proud of ourselves. And it just shows me that our conversations here are having both immediate and long-term impact. I'm proud to introduce to you the moderator for this morning's plenary session. She's a trailblazer in her own right, an education advocate and leader who we are proud to welcome to Future Ready. Former Massachusetts Governor Jane Swift is an educational executive and entrepreneur. She has served in leadership roles in the public, private, political, and nonprofit sectors for over 3 decades, fueled by a passionate belief in the power of education to transform lives. Today, she is the president of Education at Work, a nonprofit that works with higher education institutions and traditionally underserved students to prepare them, college graduates, for current and future careers. She is particularly passionate about the mission of EAW, having attended Trinity College with the support of Pell Grant funds, federal work-study jobs, and multiple summer jobs to help pay for her tuition. Jane Swift has held numerous leadership roles in the education innovation sector since leaving the public sector, and she is a sought-after speaker on education issues, working mothers and women's leadership, and more recently, the topic of gratitude, grief, and loss. She advocates for effective policies to advance excellence in learning through the thoughtful use of innovation and technology. Her three daughters, Elizabeth, Lauren, and Sarah, are pursuing their post-college graduation careers in studies with confidence and integrity and passion, inspired by their mother and all the things that she's accomplished. Please welcome Jane Swift.
All right, y'all, when they said I had done that for 3 decades, and then you saw me, I know it's been like late nights and early mornings, but please, you were supposed to gasp. Be like, oh my God, she can't be that old. Jeez, there's a lot of women in this room. And I'm thrilled that they didn't cut the part of my way too long, because old, introduction that talked about my daughters, because they do inspire me every single day, and nobody's ever spent 10 minutes in a room with me without hearing about them. And my phone is back there, so hopefully they won't call me in the middle of this. But I am thrilled to be here today with 3 distinguished college presidents. Before we start, I just want to acknowledge, on a much more serious note, that some of you may have seen in the original schedule that Dr. Whitfield, the president of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, was scheduled to be on this panel this morning. And I'm certain many of you know about the tragedy that occurred on his college campus just a week ago. And so obviously he is not here. I believe there may be some people from his campus who are here. And we just want to extend our condolences, not just to Dr. Whitfield and the students, faculty, and staff of that campus, but all those who are impacted by that tragedy and others. As you heard, I speak now and write about grief. I lost my husband 2 years ago, and I think a great way to start this morning's session and to transition from that topic to where we're going to go is to tell you that sometimes, and I'm sure on your college campuses, with all of the challenges that you face, all of the post-college or post-COVID disruption, it's easy to focus on the problems. It's easy to focus on the challenges. It's easy to get discouraged. But one of the things that I have learned over the last 2 years is that even when you don't believe that there are going to be better days, when you practice gratitude, when you do the things that matter and the work that each of you do and the individuals who I'm about to introduce do work that matters, inspiring the next generation of leaders, what you discover, much to your great surprise, is that there is always hope and that we can always make a difference. Some days the difference is getting out of bed. Some days the difference is changing a young person's life and seeing what they go on to do. But there are always better days, and we must always focus on the hope that the young people and some of the not so young people on your college campuses are bringing to their studies and to their aspirations. And so with that, we are going to have a conversation that I hope will bring you some inspiration, some new ideas, and at the very least will be lively. If you have not seen me moderate a panel before, they always give me notes, they always tell me what to say, and if I have ever stuck to a script, let a bolt of lightning strike me down. It does not happen, but there's always a first time. I doubt this will be it. So I would love for our 3 distinguished college presidents to come out while I introduce them. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Kyle Dalpe, who has worked in higher education for more than 27 years. 27 years, oh my goodness. Supporting student access and success. He was recently appointed the president of Western Nevada College, which is a rural community college with campuses in Carson City, Fallon, and Minden, Nevada. He's served as a provost, a senior vice president. He's overseen academic affairs, so he knows a little about this industry, finance and student services, and he's worked to build new programs, define strategic enrollment management, planning and implementation, develop initiatives to support diversity, equity, inclusion, and something important in this moment in time, secure external funding to support student-centered projects. Most importantly, I found out he's about to become the grandparent of twins, which I am a special supporter of parents and grandparents of twins. Let us welcome Dr. Kyle Dalpe to the stage. Thank you, Doc. Next, we have DeRionne Pollard, the president of Nevada State University. Dr. Pollard, as I said, is the president of a public comprehensive institution which awards baccalaureate degrees in over 50 courses of study in graduate education. She began her tenure at Nevada State in August of 2021. Not much happening right around that time. Dr. Pollard is the first Black woman president of any Nevada system of higher education institution. And we make it super easy for women to be the first to do anything, I'll tell you that. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Pollard. And finally, I want to welcome Dr. Federico Zaragoza. He heads one of the largest multi-campus higher education institutions in the country, the College of Southern Nevada. They have enrollments of approximately 50,000 students. Sometimes my 3 daughters sound like 50,000 students, I'm just going to tell you that. He currently serves as the U.S. representative on the board of Inter-American Organization for Higher Education, and he's on the board of directors for the American Association of Community Colleges, which, as I'm sure all of you know, is the primary advocacy organization for our nation's community colleges. I want to thank Dr. Zaragoza and each of our panelists and all of these extraordinary leaders for being here. You can find their full biographies in the event app, or if you don't care about accuracy, go look on Wikipedia. All right, now, that was just a little aside. We are gonna I'll sit down for this part. We are in interesting times, but hopefully you heard me say that there also is a lot of hope that happens on a college campus. So not that I'm giving you a leading question, but could each of you just tell me, and I'm just gonna go this way because it's easier, but I'm not gonna stay in that order forever. What led you to want to lead a college campus at this moment in time, and what gives you hope?
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And I just want to say one quick thing to the audience is here. If you go out to the booth and you get these little stickers, there's one that say, I survived a night in Vegas and came real early to the first session. You should get that. That's important. Bring it back and show your supervisors. Thank you for being here. The question about wanting to lead during this time, I have been at 4 community colleges. I find it a passion to do community college work. I have worked in the states of Texas, Arizona, and the majority of my career, the 21 years this month, which makes me legal in Las Vegas, is in the state of Nevada working at 2 schools. And I have a passion for helping people access higher education. And every year, if I get to a place where I don't feel like I can do that job, whether it's sitting in the president's chair or whether it was when I was provost or when I was instructing, when May rolls around and we have commencement and I watch them walk across the stage, that is the culminating moment. And for me, that is what we are trying to do, because once they walk across the stage, they go off into a better place, even if it's into more classes at a different school or into the workplace. And so for me, being in the game, with all of the issues that we're going to talk about today, is worth it for that ending moment.
Great.
Governor, I love this question. This is my 3rd presidency. I was president in 2 institutions, one in Illinois. I was a faculty member there, then I moved and became a president in California, and then in Maryland, and now in my current institution. I share that because I think context matters. I'm an English professor by life and training, and words matter. So when you think about what leadership means in this moment, I'm often reminded about how we want to show up in these spaces and places. Junior year, Iowa State University, I wrote a paper and I turned it in to Neil Nakadati. Still remember him, professor, one of profound influencer in my life. He gives me the paper back and he says, A/C. A, great content, in parentheses, writing flaws. Now, mind you, I'm a third year English major at Iowa State University. I'm preparing to graduate. I think I'm a pretty good writer. And I was insulted and I was mad. So I walked into his office and I said, hey, you know, what is this? You give me a C on this paper. And he said, DeRionne, get out of the passive voice. And I kind of paused and I said, what is a passive voice? Now, I was a junior in college. I didn't understand the concept. He said, you need to be acted upon less than anyone I ever known in my life. He said, you need to be active in your writing. So why do I choose to lead in these moments? That has been an enduring theme for my entire life. I don't like being acted upon. I like to do the acting. And if I have the opportunity to influence the organization and to really speak truth in spaces where oftentimes it is not heard, where I know my presence matters, that's why I've chosen to do this work.
Yeah, and I can attest, DeRionne is an active actor in the system. I'm Federico Zaragoza, and for me, I guess, I've been in the community college system now for almost 30 years, in Milwaukee for about 10, and then at Alamo for about 18 to 20 years. So community colleges have been my life, and I had the dream job at Alamo Community Colleges. I was the Vice Chancellor for Economic and Workforce Development, and I mean, that was my dream job. But I also kind of understood that there was kind of that next step, that I wanted to actually be the leader of an institution. And for me, it was the right institution. Could I find one? I was looking at an urban area. Both Milwaukee and San Antonio are urban areas. They're diverse. And especially in San Antonio, the Hispanic Latino emergence is a strong consideration. So that's kind of the type of institute that I was looking for. And the College of Southern Nevada really struck me because of my workforce background. So Las Vegas is diversifying. And there's new industries that are coming, and we have to develop new programs. So I felt I had a good alignment to that area. And then the second area is that 40% of our students are Latino students. So I felt that this was a good connect for me and that I could make a difference. And I can tell you that for me, what keeps me excited is one, our students, they're amazing students. And I think they are going to be changing the trajectory of Southern Nevada. And the second part, I think, is that this is a very welcoming community that I think welcomes innovation. And so those are the two reasons that kind of keep me going in the job.
Awesome. So, Dr. Pollard, don't want to be acted on. You want to do the acting. So one of the things you acted on, or you are acting upon, your institution is one of the newest in the room. It reopened in 2002, and you rebranded it from a state college to a state university. I have to say, this is happening all over Massachusetts, and I would love to know why the shift in mission. What lessons can you share on how institutions can shift to retool and evolve to meet the needs of the regions they share?
What a deft transition. I really appreciate that. I would offer first that Nevada State University was always a university. We are a comprehensive regional institution that offers both undergraduate and graduate programming and over 40 programs of study. We have residence halls, our faculty engage in scholarship, and we are tightly coupled to the higher education space in our community. So for all intents and purposes, though, it was challenging a taxonomy that many within the state just couldn't get their head around, because they said, oh, we have two universities. And even to this day, when we're in rooms, they'll say, we have two universities, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, University of Nevada, Reno. Those are our universities. We have 4 community colleges, and they can name those. They could name thoughtfully, we have DRI, which is a research institute, but they didn't quite understand what a state college would be doing. So what we had to do is really amplify and demonstrate to the community and to our elected officials what this is. First and foremost, it was not a change in mission. Our mission is profound. We know we serve the new majority in higher education. 75% of my students are students of color, 50% of them are first-generation students, 80% of them continue to live in the state of Nevada. So for me, it was a value proposition. For those students to have a credential that had the same marketplace value as any other student who graduated with a baccalaureate degree or a master's degree from a higher educational institution. And for me, it was profoundly an equity issue. My students came to me, because this is a first-year president's job. You don't want to take on a name change, particularly when you had the winds of change saying, we don't believe that. You were created to create more teachers and nurses. You were created to serve this population. And they had this academic elitist model in their mind about what university meant. So that meant we had to actually tell people what we did, why we did it, and for whom we did it. So part of this in three things. One, clarity around what your mission is, who you serve and why you serve that population. Secondly, what your value proposition is. And third, and most importantly, for me, defining equity as a driver in this work. My students deserve to have a name that carries the values of the institution and the marketplace credential that allows them to be able to do the things they want to do. If I am not able to articulate that and convince the community, then shame on me for my role as a president.
Awesome. So, Dr. Zaragoza, I thought you were going for water or something. I love to call on people when they don't expect it. You already talked about how large and diverse your community college is, and therefore you're serving a very diverse population with open access. How do you do that while also raising the bar for student outcomes and student success? And I would throw in the thing we're here to talk about, completion. Because I think one of the problems we're facing as an industry, that's probably a bad word, but people are losing confidence in college because of the statistics they see that are largely driven by non-completers.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think that bar you talk about is a bar that cuts across all our student populations. And one of the elements for us, again, you talk about we're a complete College America institution. And so we're committed to the principles of Complete College America, and that starts with purpose. And from day one, when we have our first year in college orientations, I remind people that they're there to graduate. And it's very important that all the institution kind of abides by that. It's part of our mission. So we're very purposeful and intentional in terms of what the experience is going to be. And then obviously we create kind of the structure, which I think is, we talk about that, creating kind of the pathways, that map, the academic map that they need to be able to move through the system. And then kind of you build that opportunity also to create that momentum, by trying to get as many of our students to take at least 15 credits. I mean, the whole idea of making our students view the pathway and provide them with the option to accelerate that opportunity by going from part-time to full-time. That's a very intentional strategy that we have. And then our support systems, again, we talk about there's no different standards, it's the same one, everybody's there to graduate. But some individuals have to meet where they are. And I think we have to provide the right support systems, and we have to be committed to that. And there are areas that you have to invest in, like advising, where our target is 350 to 1. We want to have a case management type approach, so everything we do with students. So actually implementing and having the discipline and las ganas to do the work is very important, so that not only talking about the purpose, but actually having the infrastructure so that students can succeed.
That's awesome. Dr. Dalpe, you actually are having an enrollment increase. Should we do a standing O? Like that is everybody's dream, right? So what factors are driving the growth, and how do you translate growth into improved completion rates, especially when you think about traditionally underserved students?
Right, so yeah, so a little bit of context. Western Nevada College, which is located up in Carson City, north of here, we have 3 campuses spanning about 12,000 square miles. We're a rural serving institution. So one of the things we've put in place is a heavy strategic enrollment plan that looks at access, and we've nailed that. We're up 17%, and so now I'm trying to shift our campus to the success element, which is why a number of us are here. My cohort's over there. You guys just wave a little bit. That's our very limited staff. They're all here, yes. We were wondering who's left on campus because we have a very small staff. Now we're shifting to that success, and when we look at our numbers, our fall-to-fall persistence retention rate, however you classify that, is about 69%, and that's good for full-time students. It's 10 points ahead of the national average. Our part-time, as my colleagues mentioned a little bit in some of their comments, our part-time enrollment struggles, and so we're looking at all students, part-time, full-time. Now that we've reached out and have grown our enrollment, how do we get them through the pipeline to the completion, whether that's their class, semester, to the next semester to continue a degree or certificate? And we've put in place different elements to we call them wraparound services, however that is, however we define it, but ways that faculty and staff can engage with students to keep them going. We do a number of outreach to different populations on campus. We have a Latino Leadership Academy that has driven our enrollment up. That includes pushing us from under 25% to above 20%. We're about 30% Hispanic now, puts us into HSI status. We reach out to our tribal communities to engage people to enter higher education, but be able to do it in their community because we have done quite a bit, like most of you have out of the pandemic, with access using video, remote, flexible learning options. But the success piece now is so huge, and that's part of the reason we're here with a large group, because we have to shift a little bit. When you asked about being president, this is the hardest job I've ever had, but this is the most fun I've ever had. And the reason is getting people into the pathways and getting them through. And if we can get more students through, right now we've shifted our priorities on campus. We had to do a last minute, oh my gosh, we have all this enrollment. We're gonna have to park some initiatives. One of the things we do at a community college very well, all of you who are at community colleges know this, is we never say no to anybody, and we accommodate and we do everything we can for our communities, including our businesses. But right now, as president, I have to lead the campus to focus around the students that we have, and not put to the side forever initiatives, but slow down some initiatives, because we just don't have the staff to maintain it. So we want to make sure we put everything in place that supports students. So if they have a meltdown in the middle of the week and need support, we have that. If they can't figure out which class to take, we have that. But to get them to the finish line, that's what we're doing. And that's quite honestly, our priority now, and I see it for the next few semesters.
I tell my girls all the time, like, it's the hard things that you do that are always the most worth doing. So I love you that you gave that context. Easy stuff, who cares about the easy stuff, right? Except for Staples, I guess.
I do not have an easy button.
No easy
There's
buttons in the college president's office, which is going to lead to my next.
Buttons, but not that one.
Yeah, which is going to lead to my next question. But before I do, I want to give the audience a heads up. We are going to take questions. Okay, 30 years I've been speaking things like this. It could be a preschool class. It could be MIT rocket scientists. Whenever you go to questions, no one wants to ask the first question, unless I'm in the audience. I always ask the first question. No one ever wants to ask the first question. Then once somebody breaks the ice and asks the first question, you can never get to all the questions. So this is why I warn you or alert you now. The other thing I will tell you, one of the things we're doing at Education at Work is trying to prepare students, right, to go out, get a job, have all these soft, durable skills. I always say not everybody can have a bitch mother like me who's telling them these things. I tell my girls all the time, always be ready with the first question, right? If you have an opportunity and you're in a group and you want to stand out, always ask the first question. I have been the person who opens it to questions. I always remember the person who asked the first question. How much... You guys have given speeches. They tell you to ask questions. People tell us to come here. We do what we're supposed to do. You ask questions and you get this. Not good. It's very, very not good. So I always say to my daughters, tell all your students, ask the first question. Be ready. Have a good question. So model what you want your children and your students to do. All right, so you're warned. I want to see 10 people, however they're going to go to those questions. Anyway, you're going to leave here with one takeaway from me. Thank God I am not her child. Anyway, so we have other presidents in the audience. I'm certain we have some aspiring presidents in the crowd, besides the fact that they should get up and ask the first question. We are here to talk about leadership, and everything is changing post-COVID. But certainly, and I didn't want to go to this first because there's lots of challenges, and I did want to start on more of an up note. But we have to talk about, so how is the role changing? And I'm going to ask each of this question. And then any brief leadership thoughts on, in terms of how it's changing, how you then tackle that. And I think you've each alluded to that a little bit, and I know I took away one of the best answers, right? Always ask the first question, always be prepared to stand out in a room, whatever. I'm like that. Dr. Pollard.
So
You said you've been in 3 campuses. You have to have some thoughts about how it's changing.
I've had the pleasure of serving through leadership 3 organizations that were very different. East Coast, West Coast, and now here in the West. And I will share with you that unlike any other time that I would imagine, leadership is the most challenging. I don't know if any of you are addicted to news, kind of like I am. I don't know if you saw this. This morning, I had no less than 5 alerts telling me that a university president had retained her job. I don't know about you, but this moment, there is almost a demonic force that is happening in this country right now to tear down institutions, to challenge the very idiosyncrasies. And I'm okay about revolution and change when necessary. What I'm not comfortable with is that when we do it without being intentional about the outcome, we're not careful about the people that are engaged with it. We aren't sure about what it is we're trying to get to. So we've crafted all these masterful myths about what's happening in higher education right now. Higher education is too expensive. Higher education is too woke. Higher education doesn't do this. I mean, you can list, there's a litany. The list gets longer and longer. And then you start to wonder as you ask the question, those of us who are leading them, who's the fool here? You know, why do we want to be a part of this? I remain compelled around the belief that higher education is the only thing I know that can lift a family out of poverty. It is the only economic driver that has sustained itself over time to show outcomes. So when I hear folks, and this is where, you know, when you think leadership lessons, I love stand up and ask a question if y'all didn't get that. If you're an academic leader of an organization or whatever role you are in, and you don't have a response for the person who says, well, higher education is not relevant now. No, everybody doesn't need a degree. If I hear that one more time, I'm gonna scream, because what I wanna say is, whose kids are you talking about? You know, when you talk about the relevancy of higher ed, why do we still have thousands of students applying for admissions into Ivy League institutions for seats that don't exist? If higher education didn't matter, why do we have parents committing all types of crimes over the last several years to get their kids into admissions into institutions if it didn't matter, right? If it did, I'm getting wound up, but I had no caffeine yet.
Oh, I get wound up.
But because so for me, when I think about leadership in this moment, when you're leading organizations like this, you have to have a profound clarity about why you're here. So I'm a first-generation college student. I know for a fact I would not have been from the south side of Chicago to sitting in this stage right now. I make more money in a year right now than my father made in a lifetime. Right? And I don't say that because, yeah, I know I make good money. You're missing the point if that's what you get stuck on. What you need to get stuck on is about generational transformation and wealth, about changing the narrative of families. So for me, what wakes me up in the morning when I got to go in still and deal with some of the stuff we shouldn't have to deal with and wondering if you're going to see your name pop up on a Google alert because you didn't want to get into performative leadership and you listen to lawyers tell you what you should say when in the moment you're sitting in front of tribunals. Okay, so I'm stopping. I got wound up. So know why you're there. Know why you're there.
And
if you
don't always listen to the lawyer.
You don't listen
One of
to
the best changes I made as governor, they told me, don't reform the child welfare system, because it doesn't matter what you do, kids will die. I said, yeah, but if a few less kids die, that would be a good thing.
That's it.
Right? Don't listen to the
So
lawyer.
know why you're there.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Dr. Zaragoza, can you top that?
Absolutely not. I follow DeRionne a lot, and I can tell you, she's just an amazing thought leader in this country, and I think I'm blessed to hear her passion in her work, and I'm influenced by that as well. But I also kind of know that the vast majority of us are in a different place, and so if you're aspiring to be a president, I would reference you to the American Association of Community Colleges. That they have a competency profile for presidents, and the part that I'm concerned about is that it misses a very important element that DeRionne talked about, and that's kind of the change agent role that all of us are having to play. And very few of us are really prepared for that change agent role in this environment. And I really do think that it goes down to the values, and it does test you in terms of why you're here. But more importantly, what are you going to do moving forward? We have a very diverse community. We have many states now that are pushing back on diversity. Community colleges, and I got into community colleges because of diversity and because of the power of the institution. And so now it's my values. Are we going to, in fact, be in a position as presidents to have the courage to lead institutions? And what does that mean? I kind of just say that because we're in that moment. It's much different, I think, than it was before COVID. But the social justice paradigm really for presidents, understand that's the scenario you're in. That's the part that makes it harder. That's the management part. That's the change agent role because we are in the midst of change as institutions.
The other organization I would point out is the Aspen Institute. I was lucky enough to serve on one of their commissions around community colleges, and they put out great information, almost exclusively around changing paradigms and excellence. So, and by the way, I would have never done anything good in my life if I didn't copy other people's good ideas. That can be a great leadership strategy. So I'm glad you talked about where to find great resources as a community college leader. Dr. Dalpe, and I already gave him great advice about how to be the perfect grandparent of twins. Yeah. So there's that, right? So you've achieved one lesson today.
So it's tough following one of my colleagues, but following both of them now is a little bit tricky on that question. I'm not even remember what the question was, but you guys did an awesome job.
How's the role president change?
It has changed. The higher ed landscape from a leadership perspective, whether you're in a dean or a VP job or the president job, has changed. It'll continue to change, and you'll walk in every day and there will be a to-do list that you want to get done that never gets done. You will have things happen that you never expected. And you will have donors who are mad, you will have staff who are mad, you will have students who didn't quite get the grade they wanted. All of that blends into, if you have a passion for the work you do and you want to do that work. I have a very strong passion for being at the community colleges, and I came up through part-time instruction into a role of public relations, marketing, fundraising, back to teaching, academic affairs, all the buckets. And at the end of the day, it all leads to being a first point of access for people that will likely not go anywhere else if our doors are not open. Half of the students in this country, undergraduate, access higher education through a community college first. And that pretty much mirrored in the state as well. Half of the jobs, or 51% of the jobs in Nevada, and you should look it up online for your own states, half of the jobs in the state of Nevada require more than high school but less than a bachelor's degree. So we put people into the workforce. We better their lives, or we help them transition. 2+2 programs. We have a 2+2 program with Nevada State College, or University, sorry. Still getting used to it. It's only Nevada State, I'll say that. We have a 2+2 program for educator pipeline, K-12 instructors. We partner with the schools as we can throughout the state to get people into the jobs that are here so that they can better themselves. And I think community colleges, you've heard the stories, if somebody comes onto our campus and quite literally cannot find where they're going, they will walk away from higher education forever. They're not going to drive to the university if they pass up the community college. And so us being there and being open and being ready and doing the extra things to get people in, that is what I'm trying to facilitate from the highest seat at the organization, to make it facilitate it. When somebody comes to me and says, I have a good idea, we should do this, whether it's more signage or more this, or, unfortunately, most of the time it's more staffing, which we can't do. And we do have a number of jobs open if any of you are here without your supervisor. We are trying to get people to support our students through that pathway. And that, at the end of the day, is the access and success piece that is in all of our mission statements.
You could have been a working mother. Because everything I go to, I try to accomplish more than one thing at once. So not only are you doing a great job talking about your institution, but he just filled a couple vacancies. That's awesome. And his team is yes, yes. All right, so we only have less than 2 minutes before I go to the brave people, the 10 or 20, who are going to ask questions. I won't get to all of them. This may be the first panel I've been on in months where we haven't used the words artificial intelligence. So I'm not going to let that stand. And it wasn't in any of the notes. But rather than artificial intelligence, let's just talk about innovation and what's on the horizon. One of the things that is hard for any leader, but certainly whether you're in a public institution or a university or college, any institution that is designed and it is appropriate for it to move a little more slowly than the pace of innovation, which is basically anything but a tech bro company, has to deal with this mismatch in the velocity of change. And so you're preparing students for a world, and I do believe, all the other things aside, that is what is causing a lot of the distrust, a lot of the dislocation, a lot of the fear that comes out sometimes in not so healthy ways. So how do we harness innovation? How do you think about innovation and the sort of changing nature of work?
So I use ChatGPT, and I'm no longer ashamed to admit it.
Yeah.
And so but it does it fills in the blank just like any other technology. And from my standpoint, I embrace the change. I embrace the way we do things. But I try not to be the president who comes to a conference and comes back with a great software package. We have to have the roadmap for our business processes before we wrap around any innovation on the work side to facilitate that and make it easier. And at a small institution where we don't have a lot of staff, that's beneficial to find something that maybe an AI or a chatbot or virtual this or some software package can make things easier for us. On the academic front, we have been very good at bringing down money to buy the latest for the classroom. New screens, new technology, new this. I mean, we're at the point now where I'm like, if we don't paint the walls, it still looks old, but everything else works great, and that's awesome, and we want to do that because that learning experience needs to be top-notch. We have implemented one example, and I'll toss it to my colleagues. We have implemented a mobile classroom, which can travel throughout the rural distances that we have to teach automation, robotics, electronics, so that we can train that to communities who don't have to travel to campus. But all of that technology, all of the cutting edge pieces, we've been able to secure external funding to put that into the classroom so we won't be behind the times. Because our employers come in and as you know, they're looking for people and they want them trained and they never seem to have time to let people get trained. But they need them to walk out of our place with at least a ground level knowledge of what they're going to be doing so then they can be scaled up in the workplace.
Anybody else want something to add? I've got this huge pent up demand I've got to get to.
I think Kyle hit the kind of the nail on the head. I mean, technology is everywhere we look, and for many of us, it's a tool. I think that the part that we need to be concerned about is that that tool is moving very fast, and in some cases, it's going to raise issues that may be ethical issues. It may impact the culture of the organization. And so it's going to be very important that we look at how we process technology into the applied side of the house. And I think community colleges, because we are community colleges, kind of we're used to kind of incorporating and adopting technology at the front end of things. But every time we do that, we're a little bit behind our employers, and there's the pressure sometimes where the community, the employers want you to move a lot faster. Your internal communities are suspicious and worried, and you have to kind of make sure that at the end of the day, we move at the appropriate pace. And that does require us to kind of adopt internal processes that may not be in place now. It moves very fast.
I think the only thing I add to that is that higher education, was an institution and a series of systems that was often designed to protect culture. We were the ivory tower for a reason, and we were to help spark change in the world, but we didn't necessarily talk about the change that had to happen within us in order to do that. So I think in the midst of all of the technologies and all the other innovations that are happening, part of what we have to also do is to really work on our cultural readiness to adapt as within our own institutions. There is still a certain amount of fear, I'll even say that, a concern, maybe rejection about the implications of certain types of innovations, because it challenges the very fabric of who we are. Many of us are the progeny of a system that we are now protecting in the work that we do within our own institutions. So if I challenge that to a certain extent, I'm challenging my own identity. So we have to talk both about what's happening around us and how technology and change movements are occurring, but I would say we also have to talk about our cultural readiness and capacity within our organizations to craft cultures that can accelerate our own responses to the things that are happening around us. And that, I think, is one of our Achilles' heel.
Great. All right. Don't let me down out there.
No
Does
pressure.
anyone have a question? Oh, there you go. Boo. All right. So it's how do you do the disconnect to implement all of these badging, credentials, workforce initiatives, but the same folks who are pushing to do it aren't sending the money? Right, financial aid doesn't cover it. By the way, I'm going to try to reform that.
Yeah, a couple of things. First and foremost, I think in terms of the financial aid part, the short-term Pell will be very helpful with that. And I think at the federal level, there's a recognition now that the value proposition for many people is being able to get that job, I think it's in the horizon. The second part, and it goes back to, Jane, I think you made the point about, you can't predict the jobs. No, you can't, but you can predict the skills. And I think that that's part of the institutional challenge. How do we present to employers a picture of the kind of skills that people have? And that's where micro-credentialing is a real opportunity. I think it can enhance the value of liberal education, critical thinking, elements that right now are not part of the workforce system. So I think we have to look at that in terms of what the intent might be and the opportunity for us to be able to bring that value proposition to education in general. Workforce is not just community colleges. We've talked about that all the time in terms of the role of universities. This is an opportunity for us to be able to package what we do better in terms of skills, because we may not know what the jobs are going to look like, but we know what the skills are that are going to be needed in the future.
Great question. I could tell you were thinking about it, especially use that big word, temporal. I'm going to want to, they're telling me over here there's a question. I don't know where he's parked. All right, right there. I could barely see you.
Hello, my name is Brandon Briggs. I'm a history major at Alabama State. My question is, as a student, we hear conversations around what students need. What system do you have incorporated in your role as a leader to ensure that students' voice is heard and students' interest is incorporated in your decision?
So I just want to thank you. When I just took this new job, I said I was going to like meet with a student or hear from a student every single week, and I hadn't achieved that yet. So boom, that's a double win for me. How do you incorporate student voice into your leadership?
So we all talk about shared governance in the workplace, especially in academia, and that involves the employee groups. But I meet regularly and include our student government into that process, and I meet regularly with our student government president and anyone she wants to bring to the table and talking with them to keep not only the finger on the pulse kind of thing, but also just to hear what's emerging, what their needs are, and then try to respond to that as quickly as we can.
I think the other thing is both the formal and informal. For us as well at my institution, I actually have a student who sits on the leadership team who meets monthly with the senior leadership of the institution. Powerful opportunity to have that dialogic conversation occurring between the institution and the students that we were designed to serve. I also think it's important to have those informal moments. I follow students on social media. I'm active on it. I try to find out what's happening in their world. I have monthly meetings with our student body president, and he brings in other students there. And I give students my phone numbers, and I say, hey, give me text me, let me know what's happening. Those opportunities are real because at the end of the day, it grounds us in why we do the work.
And we do the same thing. One of the other elements that I think is important is that our student government president is part of my cabinet.
Yeah.
So they're part of the dialogue like everybody else, and they have a voice at the table. So it's a shared governance kind of part of it. But the other thing, too, is that at the colleges of Nevada, we, from day one, made it very clear, the purpose side of the house, that students were first. And that's become our motto. In fact, we got the Northwest commendation because of that. Everything we do starts with the premise, how is this going to impact students positively?
Well, and kudos, Henry A., for you asking the question. Any other student who is here, right? Make sure you have a LinkedIn and make sure you put that you attended this on your LinkedIn, right? Those are the kind of things, if you had a bitch mother like me, she would be telling you. And you don't have to wait to be invited to do things, but also go to office hours and talk to you can also be out there making sure your voice is heard. There are so many ways that don't get used, right, in our universities and colleges. So thank you for asking that very important question. Do we have another question? I don't know if this is when I stop at 5 minutes or not, but I'm just going to ignore it and do it the way I think I should. Go ahead. Oh, what is most important? I'm going to have each of you answer that. What is the most important in building a strong leadership team? Obviously, having access to a great moderator.
I'll take this. I just hired a new provost and new chief fiscal officer. Both started within the current month. And what I will tell you has been very interesting to me now, being able to do this multiple times. One, I want subject area competence. I don't need to be able to do your job. If I do your job, you're not relevant to me. So I need you to know your job and to stay current and connected to that. Secondly, I need you to be a thought leader with me, but that doesn't mean you think the same as me. One of the best things I ever did in my life is I try to hire people who are oftentimes the opposite of how I think. I'm an English professor. I'm very macro. I'll stay up here ethereal. I have not met a theme that I don't love, a conceptual framework. You tell me, I will go all day with you. You look at my Amazon list it's that way. The problem with that is you got to turn that into practicality. I hired my chief of staff one time was a chemist. Talk about the complete opposite of reality, because he was thinking about how to make it all into small parts, and I was up here, but we met in the middle and it was beautiful. So there's an opportunity, I think, to find that. The third one is I want them to have a commitment and passion around the mission. I spent a considerable amount of time in my career working in community colleges. Some of my folks would oftentimes argue with me that I still have such a profound influence on that. It was because it was about the student work. But I look at the people that I have the honor of working with now. I have a colleague in my institution who I tell people all the time, if I want to tell the story of this institution, I will put him in front of the room before me any day of the week, because he understands why we do. If I can get those three things, everything else we can work around. But you got to be willing to do that and be grounded as a team in the work. So I have a new team. Starting in January, we're actually going to read Brene Brown's Dare to Lead together, and we're going to talk about how to rumble because right now that's the issue in higher ed. We don't know how to do that very well in our organizations and to build strategy toward that purpose.
For me, it's competence, it's the mission alignment, and a commitment to diversity.
Yes.
Do you want to do a quick, she's there because I am not doing what I'm supposed to. I'm telling you, right now I have to go to a video, but, because she was standing behind before when they sent her out. I've done this enough, I know.
And she walked across too.
Yeah, well, she also has fabulous leggings, so I'm glad you got a chance to experience that. Go ahead.
So for me, it's the team building is what was said by my colleagues, the mission critical piece of it. And I truly believe that what we do in the classroom is why we're there. What we do in enrollment services is to get people to the classroom, and that's kind of the center of all we do. The most read leadership book I've got on my shelf is The Little Engine That Could. I actually have that sitting there, and somebody laughed at it the other day, and I said, we do that every day. We make things happen, and I need the problem solvers. And again, like President Pollard said, I don't need somebody who I need to watch over, and I don't need somebody that says yes, yes, yes. I need thinkers that can do the job that we're there to do, and that's what we look for.
And so I don't know if we're going to have a wardrobe competition to see who's going to throw it to Representative Lee, but I do want you to join me in thanking the panelists who did a fabulous job. And we are going still to a great video from Representative Lee, which you all can stay here and watch. You'll like break your necks, but you can at least listen. So Representative Lee.
Congresswoman Susie Lee, and I want to welcome you all to Las Vegas and thank you so much for your hard work and for your advocacy, making sure that having the opportunity to achieve a higher education degree becomes a reality for so many, especially students in our most marginalized communities. Before I came to Congress, I did a lot of work in nonprofits helping students graduate from high school. But now with the work of organizations like Complete College America, those same students will have the support that they need to make sure they go on to obtain a higher education degree, which is such a vital stepping stone for attaining upward mobility and economic security. But the fight is not over. We have so much more work to do, like supporting match savings accounts and making sure that Pell Grants keep up with the pace of inflation. We have so much more work to do in terms of bringing down student loan debt, interest rates, and making sure that being able to afford college is something that isn't available to just a few of our students, but that it's available to everyone. So Complete College America, I can't think of a more important place and a more important city to welcome you. Our higher education system in Nevada would not be what it is today without the support of your organization. So have a wonderful conference, and thank you again for doing the amazing work that you do, and please keep up the hard work.
By my clock, I was super close, so thank you all. You now all get to go to your plenary sessions and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.